Hi YouTube, welcome back to the channel, of course, which is Mansell Media Corner, and today's video is an epic one, and it's got me thinking, what are my top 20 films that I own in my collection in terms of DVD and Blu-rays. So without further ado, in at 20 from, I think this is 1978, but it's a sequel to the Guns of Navarone, but this is Force 10 Guns for Navarone, with Harrison Ford, Robert Shaw, which is his second to last film, Franco Nero, who is the original Django, I believe, Edward Fox, Carl Weathers, who was Apollo Creed, I believe, in the Rocky, Richard Kiel, and Barbara Bach. This is directed by Guy Hamilton, but this is a really good, war-stroke action film. And in at 19 we have Highlander from 1986, directed by Russell Macaulay, but what a cast and what a soundtrack. The soundtrack, of course, is Queen. Of course, it's a kind of magic album, primarily most of these songs are from. But what a cast. Christopher Lambert, the late great Sean Connery, and Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown is the villain, of course, which is Kurgan. But what a great, fantasy action film this is. And in at 18 is Cat's Eye, directed by Joe Dante, I think it is. But this has got James Woods in the first film and Drew Barrymore in all the three films, I believe. Or 2 out of the 3, I forget. But what a great anthology of films. I believe this has recently had a 4K a couple of years ago, and apparently the transfer is brilliant. But yeah, that's Cat's Eyes in at number 18. Now, number 17 is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, again with a beautiful slip cover. I believe I got this from eBay for my birthday, which was in March. But what a cast. Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter. But what a great kind of science, what a great sci-fi stroke comedy. So that's in at number 18. Pardon, in at 17. In at 16, I watched this, I think, first time last year. I know this is everyone's, one of Arnie's favourites, but I like this film. What a cast. Got Carl Weathers again in this film, Jesse the Body Ventura, and of course the main man Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think it's got Bill Duke, who will be being in later, but soon. Anyhow, but what a great film for 1987, which is Predator. And the next one we have Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. That bus scene, the bus scene in this film is just brilliant. But you've got a great cast of Michael Ironside and the, well, ever so popular Christopher Lloyd, who also will make an appearance shortly. So yes, that's Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. And I believe number 2 will be out soon, which will be another big film. And speaking of Christopher Lloyd, I remember seeing this at the cinema in Merry Hill. I think it was then at the time the UCI, but this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit with Christopher Lloyd and Bob Hoskins. But this came out in 1988, where you've got Warner Brothers and Disney, Warner Brothers and Disney superhero cartoon characters merged. But what a great film. And of course, Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit on the front cover. Then we have the first of the Kurt Russell and John Carpenter mashups, and Kim Cattrall, which is Big Trouble in Little China for 1986. Again, a brilliant action stroke comedy. But what a great film this is. And of course, the brilliant Lopan, who's still around, and I forget his name. But what a great film. Then, speaking of like the 80s, which is a great period for film, by the way, directed by Tim Burton. It's Michael Keaton in Beetlejuice with Gina Davis, and I think it's Winona Ryder, very young Winona Ryder, who's playing Wednesday Addams. It's also got Bill Pullman, I think. But what a great film this is. For, like I said, 1988. And speaking of Bill Duke, he appears in this one as well. It's Commando from 1985. What a cast there. You've got the stewardess in Ray Dawn Chong. They've got a very young Alyssa Milano. But music's by James Horner, I think it is. This is directed by Markel Lester, who did a brilliant film, I'm going to say 1982, in the class of 1984, but what a brilliant action film. Of course, Arnie in the 80s was just amazing. Then we have the original from 1984, which is Ghostbusters. What a classic film. Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. But like I said, what a brilliant film. Still one of my favourite films of 1984, but it's directed by the late great Ivan Reitman. And speaking of action, and we have Rambo First Blood Part 2. I know First Blood is one of everyone's favourite Rambo. I like this film. Got a lot, it's a classic film with old Sylvester Stallone. It's Rambo First Blood Part 2. And then the second to last of the John Carpenter, which is They Live with Roddy Piper and Keith David. Just that fight scene is just amazing. This is why it's high on this list. And of course, I do like my WWE. And at the time, the late great Roddy Piper was a babyface, I think, in wrestling, which is a good guy. So yeah, but what a great film. It's got Meg Foster. But so many iconic scenes in this film. And I have to put this in this list, but it is the brilliant Never-Ending Story with Noah Hathaway and Deep Roy. But what a brilliant film for 1984. Of course, got the legendary Falcor, Rock Beta. But what a brilliant film. And in the number 5 is the brilliant Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But what a brilliant cast. Can't tell, but it's Sean Penn, pardon. Judge Reinhold. Phoebe Cates in the brilliant swimming pool scene. Jennifer Jason Leigh. Nicolas Cage, I believe. Anthony Edwards. But yeah, for 1982. And this has to be in everyone's list. I believe this recently got a 4K, but it's The Terminator for 1984 with Arnie himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Linda Hamilton. Is it Michael? Michael Bean, that's right. Sorry about that. Directed by James Cameron. And in at number 3 we have Escape from New York. Again, this is the last of the John Carpenter films, but it's got, as usual, Kurt Russell, Lee Van Cleef, Donald Pleasance, and this came out the year I was born in 1981. Now I'm going to get a lot of hate what's in my runner-up, but it's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. There's a little bit of a difference, but this is This isn't from 1991, I think, or 92, but it's Terminator 2 Judgment Day with Edward Furlong, Linda Hamilton, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And of course, directed by the brilliant and legendary James Cameron. Now, what made number one? This, I believe, was Stuart George's most emotional film, and it certainly is. But it's The Elephant Man. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. It is a gut punch in terms of sadness. You know, it's so powerful that I actually watched a documentary about David Lynch, and he actually cried, and even Mark Kermode said this is such a well done film. This came out in a brilliant year for film in 1980, so this is my number one. Let me know what are some of your top 20 films of all time on Blu-ray and DVD. Like I said, what a film with Anthony Hopkins, John Hurt playing John Merrick, I believe. Like I said, David Lynch, so yeah. So, like I said, don't forget to like, please, share and subscribe, and I will see you on some more videos. And like I said, bye for now.